All right, everybody, welcome. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for tuning in. I am excited to share with you the thought of the day, which is, when I introduce it, you're going to be tempted to think, this is, I already know this, so I'm going to tune out. But before you do, just humor me. And let me just say that the people who master this one topic, this skill, are the ones that truly succeed. It's the difference between success and failure. It's what separates the masters from the masses. You ready to hear what it is? All right. The topic is this: mastering the art of remembering. Whew! You're thinking, what? That sounds so simple. But as we dive into this, just humor me. You're going to see and identify some areas of your life where you're going to want to improve. Okay, so let's dive right into this. Now, remembering. Why is remembering so important? Why does it matter so much? And why are we talking about this on the Sovereign Secrets podcast? Let me just tell you, we've talked about like changing habits. We've talked about strategies. We've talked about mindsets before. So all that stuff's not new. But I think all that stuff you've heard of enough times that it's not surprising. But the challenge and where most people struggle and fail is that it's hard in a moment of strength, right? In, let's say, like you have a morning meditation, which is a fantastic habit, by the way. If you don't have it, you need to start. But even the ones that do a morning meditation or journaling or have kind of this morning time to get in the right headspace, like life happens. Like your day starts, like something in your family life, something in your work, if you're a business owner, something like there's no shortage of like fires to fight in your business. So something happens and it kind of derails you. It gets you out of that. You start, that self-doubt kind of creeps in, or that frustration, or whatever it is, your favorite flavor of negative emotion or non-productive thought that you might be addicted to, right? Or your brain just kind of slips into, like it starts to happen. So in those moments, like you don't really need to like know about how great meditation is or how great like affirmations or visualization is. What you really need to know and master is the skill of remembering, because you've already done a lot of the work. Remember, you've already journaled, you've already done affirmations. You just got to like get back in touch, get back in that spot. So much of humanity would be blessed by just mastering the skill of remembering. Okay, there's a reason why so much. It's not right. If you read the Bible, okay, I'm Christian. I read the Bible and read lots of spiritual texts. But if you read the Bible, you can see the ministry of Christ. So much of his effort and energy is spent into trying in pleading and begging his disciples to remember and to not forget, and so I just continue on this one example, right? It's like for 3 years Christ had a ministry. So when he turned 30 is when his ministry starts. He's crucified at the age of 33. So for these 3 years he recruits, there's a movement. He develops a discipleship, and in his inner circle you have the apostles, right? So these are the people who every single day, like while Christ travels, throughout the Middle East and like different countries and communities, like he'll show up in Galilee, and there'll be people who like flock to him and listen to him there, and then he goes to Capernaum, and it's like the people that go with him from Galilee to Capernaum to wherever, those are like his apostles and his inner circle, right? But like the majority of people, like they crave his presence and they're uplifted, but they have lives that they have to live, so they stay, So here's Christ, and he's traveling with his posse of apostles that he's asked to spend full-time effort supporting him and teaching. So he asked this special group of people to leave their jobs, leave their home, leave their family and friends to go embark on this mission. And so you at very least have these 12 men, but we can infer that there's more than just them, but certainly you have these 12 men that are with him all the time. And so they get to see like every miracle. They get to hear his prayers. They get to feel the power, feel the presence. Like, they're with him. There's no other human that's closer to him in his ministry. And yet, when he's crucified, what do? Do they continue immediately on their path, preaching and teaching and nourishing and continuing to propagate the movement? No, they don't. They're kind of lost and confused. And then there's even a group of them who, 3 years prior, before they got the invitation from Jesus, they were fishermen. So there's even a group of them that are like, well, Peter says, I go a-fishing. It's kind of like you hear it, the tone and his voice is kind of like, well, this was incredible. This was an awesome ride. We saw some incredible, amazing things, and our lives will never be the same. But I think it's kind of over, and so I go a-fishing. I'm just going to go back to like what I know. And then we get this like incredible spiritual account of like Jesus appearing to him as he's fishing, and there's some miracles there. There's some like vulnerability. There's some teaching that happens as the resurrected Savior teaches Peter, basically, why did you forget? And so Peter, like, if one of the apostles to Jesus, if we can have grace and, recognize that even he can forget some like pretty huge fundamental like principles and truths, and kind of slip back into old mindsets and old mentalities and patterns of behavior. Like, if that happens to him and that's okay, then we got to recognize that it happens to us. Happens to me in this modern day. Knowing that's like a fundamental thing that happens to us because we're humans, it's not that you didn't like learn it, like it. It's kind of like it's always with you, but you need to remember it. And so I'm reading this book currently. It's a really good book. It's really intriguing. It's called Dianetics, and it's the study. It's a specialized kind of field of like the brain and mental health. And so part of it is this recognition that unless a brain has been damaged, and so there's like actual brain loss and memory loss because of like physical damage, or maybe it was always like maybe he was born like a deficient brain. But barring that, so if it's a healthy brain, it has a fantastic ability to record and capture everything. And so the author of the book and a lot of people who are in that particular field of mental health and neuroscience, they would say that you don't really forget anything. Like you can remember being a baby. Like it's possible. So now there's a skill to recalling things. There's a skill to memory recall. And so our brain, I think it's very well understood that like our brain must have a way to categorize things so that things are easily recalled that it deems to be important. Okay, these are like strong, powerful memories and things like emotional connections, like who's in my tribe, who's in my family, my close friends, like what are important things like their birth date or like some emergency phone number or whatever. It's like you have a special place, like a filing place in your mind that like helps you remember things that are like really important to you. But there's like lots of things that your brain is kind of like over time, it's like, all right, well, he or she doesn't use this very much, so we're going to like move this out of the filing cabinet for like quick recall, and we're going to put this in the like universe of like, I don't know, deep memories or things that can't be recalled very quickly. And so like some people would say this as like, I forgot it. Like that's what you say, like, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot it. Yeah, I forgot. And so the study of Dianetics would say like, well, you didn't actually forget. It's just like in this piece of your memory that like your brain has said, well, it's not that useful right now, and we're not going to spend a lot of energy trying to make it, draw these really close connections to useful things. So, you didn't forget. It's still there. It's just like you know, there's a skill to, you know, getting that. And so what does all this have to do with remembering? Well, like whenever you know, like on a daily basis, you say, well, it's important for me to think positively. It's important for me to like have this affirmation and try to assume this identity as, you know, fill in the blank. Successful entrepreneur, thoughtful husband and father, blah, 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 right? So it's like, you know, like I want to be a patient and loving father. And then something happened, like your child smashes your favorite, you know, whatever, I don't know. Or you come in the room and the leather couch that you just bought, you see your, you know, innocent child with a steak knife carving, you know, a smile into it. And you're just like, what? And so have you truly forgotten it? So like maybe in that moment you're like, stop doing that, right? And maybe it turns into something even worse than that, like yelling, time out. They yell back, throw fits, you know, like, you know, spiral out of control. So in that moment, did you really forget that you're a patient dad? Did you forget that you're like a loving dad, or that a kind mentor? No, right? Like you didn't actually forget, you know, because it's like near and dear to your heart, and you say it every single day, maybe in your affirmations. So what happened? You know, like what? So you didn't forget. It's like what really happened? Well, it's like you kind of forgot, you know? It's like some stimulus hits you, and it's like you didn't really forget. You just focused on something else. You're focused on the destruction of your property or the destruction of your peace or whatever. And so for a temporary moment, like that becomes all that occupies your conscious mind. And so you've kind of like temporarily forgot, but you didn't really forget. So the art of remembering, like the people who can quickly check that and then remind themselves of the thing that, you know, that's like their best self, right? Like I'm a patient dad, I'm a kind teacher, things like that. Like the ability to master that, like basically memory recall quickly on something that really matters, will help you not destroy, in that case, like the example of a loving child with a steak knife destroying your brand new leather couch. It'll help you, you know, guide them to safety, teach them, and leave the situation in like a great, kind, loving way. Okay, and the same thing applies to like being a highly efficient employee that's high valued, or like a successful business person. It's like, okay, something hits, like something happens, and it's not like you forgot to be an efficient employee, or you forgot that you're supposed to be like fiercely committed to like success in your business or a wise steward of your resources, but like something has temporarily drawn your focus somewhere else. And so what separates the masters from the masses is people who have mastered the skill of remembering quickly. It's like, okay, stimulus happened, I'm being pulled, but wait a second, I'm remembering that my best self is different from being pulled this way, so I'm coming back here. Okay? So that's like basically this concept. And you can see that, right? If you want to truly be a sovereign individual or family, like you have to master this idea of remembering the things that matter and keeping those at the forefront of your mind, at you know, holding your attention. And so how do we do this? Okay? Well, one of the ways, like I'm going to suggest three ways. Three things that help support this idea. So I hope, well, I spent the last few minutes talking about, hopefully you're with me on the same page that this is a skill you need to master. So then the next logical question in your mind is like, well, okay, Stephen, how do I do it? How do I master? That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to spend some moments talking about three things on how to master this. All right, and the first I'm going to suggest is a pattern interrupter. A lot of us start slipping into different mental patterns or old mental patterns that are not serving us well. We start holding a grudge against somebody. We start worrying about things that haven't even happened yet or are out of our control, or or feeling a fear that's irrational, and it's impacting us. It's causing our heart rate to pump faster. It's causing cortisol to be released in our brain. It's causing us, even if we can't articulate it, to just not feel joy, right? It's like, it's a thing. It's weighing heavy on us. All right, so a pattern interrupter, a good example of this is like, and I do this is like something I legit do. On my phone, I have several alarms that are set to go off at strategic times throughout the day. These are times when I know that I have a habit of slipping into old mental patterns. And so, like if for example, when I first started doing this, I noticed a thing that I did not like about myself was during dinner, I would get frustrated because it was like this struggle to get my kids to sit with us and not throw your food or not, just like eat the food, right? Like there's like this pattern of they would like sit there and complain about the food and not eat it, and then like we're done and it's time for bed, and then they're like asking for a snack, and it's like I would get like so frustrated, and I felt like I was not acting out my best self, and I felt like, why is this happening? Why do I feel like I'm not in control of this? And so what I did was we would have dinner about the same time every day, and I would just set an alarm on my phone for that time. So we're sitting there during dinner, and then I'm like starting to feel the frustration boil up, and then all of a sudden the alarm goes off on my phone, and it's like, what? Wait, what's happening? And so it triggered something in my brain to like, interrupt the pattern. Now, so that's the first thing, is some kind of a pattern interrupter, whether it's an alarm, phone call, or something that is going to break your pattern. And now the second thing, which is closely coupled to the first, is habit stacking. Once you have interrupted the pattern, you need to feed something else into your brain to get you back to a positive place, to get you to focus on the stuff that represents your best self, okay? And so why do I call this habit stacking? Well, I didn't come up with it. It comes from a book that I love called Atomic Habits, written by James Clear. And in Atomic Habits, it's all about, breaking habits and forming better ones and things like that. So he talks about, if you, it's hard to just form a new habit. Let's say like, I'm going to exercise every day. If you're not in the habit of exercising every day, in and of itself, it's just difficult to like start exercising every day. So to make it a little bit easier, James Clear suggests like saying, well, I am going to couple this habit of exercising with something that I already am used to doing. So in the book he gives examples. I can't remember his examples, but just to kind of name one, it's like, all right, well, when I hear my alarm go off in the morning, like if it's just a matter of moving my body at all, before I do anything, like I already get out of bed, I already go brush my teeth. It's like a habit that I already have. And so James would suggest like, all right, just say I'm proposing a new rule that every time I brush my teeth, I do 20 push-ups. You see what I mean? It's like you already have a habit that you do, brush your teeth, and that happens no matter what. Like it's already a habit, and it's going to stay forever. So what you do is you just like couple it with the new habit. So you brush your teeth, do 20 push-ups. And James realizes that once you do 20 push-ups, it's kind of like your body's working, you already started to sweat, and so it's a lot easier to be like, at that point, okay, I'll put on my running shoes and go on a run, right? It's like, it's a thing that helps, it's not very productive to just like, I don't know, just try to form a new habit. You have to couple it with something that's already happening. So that's the concept of a habit stack. What does this have to do with my example of, a pattern interrupter? So if again, my example of eating dinner, I'm starting to get frustrated. The alarm goes off, and it's like, whoa, wait, what's happening? And for a split moment, my brain doesn't know. My brain, which my subconscious on autopilot has just started like ruminating and telling stories that kind of feed this like growing frustration, like they never enjoy the food, or they only eat snacks, or they don't respect me as a dad, whatever is happening yeah, in the mind. It's like the pattern interrupter, immediately it doesn't have room. It's for a split second, it's not focused on that. And so then immediately you say, well, what am I going to do instead? And that could be anything for you, but like for me, I would say something like, all right, Stephen, whenever you hear this alarm, like no matter what anyone else did or perceived slight to you or anything, like when you hear this alarm, you have got to say something that you are grateful for them today, like something specific. And this is kind of an example, right? So like the alarm goes off and like I'm already frustrated, but then I'm like, oh, you know what? Like my daughter like painted this picture of me. So, wow, I'm just really grateful for that. And then like that shifts my focus to be like, oh, I'm grateful. I'm actually grateful for a lot of things about her. And she's actually a pleasant person, and she actually loves me, and okay, life's good. Okay. Now it doesn't like necessarily change their behavior. You see what I mean? It doesn't change them. It really just changes me, and it puts me on a different path. It reminds me that I'm a loving father, I'm patient. Okay, so this is just one example, but I hope that you can see how this can be anything in your life. Like you just identify what are the moments I start to feel bad or stressed about something. Find some pattern interrupter. An alarm on your phone is a really good one, and then immediately couple it with something that you come up with this rule that you have to do it. And it could be thanking someone, it could be calling someone. It's like, I'm just scared of calling people. I know I'm a salesman, but I can't bring myself to call someone. It's like, okay, right when you hear this alarm, you make that call. Like, doesn't matter anything else. Like, that's the rule. You pick up the phone and you call. You don't have to stop and think about what you're going to say. You don't have to stop and like wonder, what your pitch is going to be. It's like, no, you just, without thinking anymore, dial the number, make the call. That's it. Whatever happens after that, doesn't matter. What matters is that you've decided, premeditated, I'm going to pattern interrupt followed by an action. So that's what it is, right? That's first two, pattern interrupter and habit stack. The third thing I would say is to journal. Get in a habit of journaling. I journal at least once a day. Sometimes I journal, multiple times a day. And the reason this is helpful in remembering is the act of writing. And this is, I also type a lot in different, I type a lot in Google Docs, and I have hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of notes and musings, and like a book that I'm writing, and frameworks and strategies and stuff. Like I have a massive amount of stuff that I've typed. That's good, but there's something about a pen and paper that slows the brain down, puts you in a contemplative state, helps you remember things that matter to you, helps you articulate fears, which diminishes them. And so it's really good in this art of remembering. So the people who are sovereign, individuals and families, they've mastered this art of remembering. So you don't have to like keep reteaching yourself things. It's like half the battle is just to remember the stuff you already know. And so they're doing this. Like they journal. They do pattern interrupters. They couple positive habits that they want to support their new identities or their best self with things that they're already doing as a no-brainer. Okay? That's already that anyway. So those are the three things. Hope that was a positive return on your attention. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you around.